What if the reason you aren't wealthy has nothing to do with your work ethic, your education, or how lucky you are? Society trains us to believe that fortunes are built purely by grinding out long hours and hoping for a lucky break. But a Silicon Valley founder turned philosopher named Naval Ravikant spent the last 20 years systematically taking apart almost every assumption we have about money and work. The industrial era model measures success by how much time you trade for a paycheck. Naval argues that true wealth only happens when you completely sever your outputs from your inputs. If you want to achieve actual financial independence, you have to stop playing the game of raw effort. You need to start playing the game of multiplication. The foundation of this multiplication is what Naval calls specific knowledge. These are highly technical or creative skills baked into your unique DNA and upbringing. Because they are so specific to you, society cannot easily train someone else to replace you. The ultimate test for finding your specific knowledge is internal. It has to feel like obsessive play to you while looking like exhausting work to everybody else. Once you have that knowledge, you need leverage to scale it. For most of human history, leverage meant either managing human labor or raising capital. Both are messy. Managing people requires tremendous leadership, and raising money requires you to ask someone else for permission to execute your idea. This chart reveals modern wealth. Traditional labor grows linearly, but products with no marginal cost of replication, like code, scale exponentially. This is permissionless leverage. You don't need funding or approval. Code acts as an army of robots, multiplying your output infinitely while you sleep. Look at the architects of the modern tech industry. The individuals who amassed the largest fortunes over the last few decades built their wealth entirely on this exact kind of permissionless, code-based leverage. The primary economic divide now separates those who utilize leverage from those who don't. This creates a fascinating tension. If building extreme leverage is the ultimate goal, why are so many highly leveraged, ultra-wealthy individuals deeply miserable? Naval frames desire as a self-signed contract. Every time you want something, you are explicitly agreeing to be miserable until that desire is fulfilled. As biological survival machines, we rarely notice we're making these agreements. We operate in a perpetual state of low-level craving: a better title, a bigger house, a cleaner inbox. The moment we acquire the thing we want, we briefly feel satisfied, only to immediately replace it with a new target. We lock ourselves onto a treadmill of chronic dissatisfaction. The very mechanism required to build massive leverage, relentless, compounding ambition, actively destroys your internal peace. We typically define happiness as a rush of positive emotion, a fleeting thrill, or a milestone to cross. Naval argues it is none of those things. Instead, true happiness is simply the default state that emerges organically when you remove the feeling that something is missing from your life. To achieve this internal silence, your mind has to stop moving. It must stop regretting the past and stop projecting into the future to plan the next move. Here lies the paradox. Building wealth demands an aggressive system of addition and multiplication. Realizing happiness demands a ruthless system of subtraction. But applying a critical lens to this framework reveals a severe friction point. How is one person supposed to balance compounding market ambition with Zen-like detachment? It forces us to ask whether this dual system is a universal blueprint or a luxury accessible only to the elite. There is an undeniable element of survivorship bias here. It is significantly easier to philosophize about letting go of worldly desires after your physical needs and financial security are guaranteed by millions of dollars in leverage. Naval's diagnosis maps onto the reality of the software era, where a single engineer can outweigh an entire legacy firm. The prescribed medicine of extreme leverage and starved desires works, but we must acknowledge the dosing instructions assume a financially secure patient. You have to learn how to build specific knowledge and permissionless leverage so you can own your time, but you must constantly audit your desires, or they will eventually own you.